You are Locked On Texas Tech, your daily podcast on the Texas Tech Red Raiders. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Something fairly unique, I guess, for this season from a perspective, professionally speaking. I'm curious, is this the ball game you think that features maybe the most talent we're going to see for either roster on the same field when it comes to Sundays?
It's either this one or Arizona State. It's 1 and 1A, but yeah, this one may tilt a bit. But Arizona State, we'll talk about that a month or so from now. But yeah, there's a lot of NFL prospects on the field in this one, which I'm guessing maybe the country doesn't realize when you're talking about Texas Tech and Utah. Always hear that, like when Georgia plays Bama, like all 32 teams are represented here, and they're looking at me. Well, right. This is a game that, Joey has said it out loud. He thinks that every team will be represented, and is that extra motivation for the tackles at Utah and some of their defensive guys and for some of the guys on your team that there is this. They can't not know it. I think that they probably clearly, it's not the end all be all, but it has to be extra motivation for some of these folks, because I do feel like how you look in person or how you handle going against elite competition is in some ways how you're evaluated. They're not only something bad would show up on film, in my opinion, versus UAPB or Kent State or maybe even Oregon State. It's like, well, they're dominant. Well, you're supposed to be. But like this is one where let's watch the cut-ups. Let's see how David Bailey and Romello Height fared against one of these two tackles. And, is it a difference between being a late first rounder or an early fourth rounder? Maybe. But it just is another layer here to a lot of these guys' futures in a game like this. They will see a lot of guys on the sideline with pen and paper and talking to personnel folks and strength coaches and all the like, and trying to see what's up. And this is fairly unique for Texas Tech, and maybe it is for Utah too. I don't know, but this is just happens to be. When did we talk about this, Callan? Back in July? Like this particular, yeah. We've kind of been eyeballing this one for a while, specifically as it relates to this O-line for Utah and this defensive line for Texas Tech, because I think that is a game within the game, and maybe it cancels out as far as the result of the game. But I do think the NFL folks will be, all eyes on how some of this goes, and odds are it's really bad for somebody if somebody is just dominant on one side of the ball or the other, or one matchup is just dominant. But the odds would tell me that maybe everybody gets a few licks in here and there. So we shall see.
First, today's episode brought to you by Prize Picks, the daily fantasy app where making the right call can actually pay off. We all make decisions every day, but on Prize Picks, being right means cashing in. And with football back, Prize Picks is the simplest and fastest way to get in on the action. Just pick more or less on 2 to 6 player projections, and you can turn your takes into real prizes, all in less than 60 seconds. You're going to love how easy and simple it is to use. And of course, Prize Picks puts their members first, so all withdrawals are fast, safe, and secure. Download the Prize Picks app today and use our code LOCKEDONCollege to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONCollege to get $50 in lineups after your first $5 play. With Prize Picks, run your game. Yeah, there'll be peaks and likely valleys both involved.
That's right.
For both teams. But yeah, I think, this, at least from a Tech perspective, I certainly can speak from that perspective. It feels so important because obviously from a standing standpoint and who you're measuring yourself against and who you're competing with, that is important. But I think there's also particular areas of your team that are going to be tested that in a way they haven't been so far this season that have got to be able to meet the call if you want to compete for a conference title. And that is in the trenches. That is between the ears when you're going on the road and trying to handle things like that in an opposing stadium. So I'm already preparing to extrapolate way too much from this. Win or lose, Chris, I'm running wild either direction. after this one, because you are squaring off with something that has historically, or at least recent history, as far as a Power 5 conference goes, resembled something you want to be, and that is tough in the trenches, steady homer away, and in relevant conversations in November. So it's just the way it shapes up. Weekend 1 in the Big 12, those are the things that are going to be measured.
Yeah, and there's a lot of people that feel like that have already, it's mid-September, and there's a lot of people that are already ready to really say, hey, this is the first of 2 matchups between these 2 teams. I just think there's so much left out there to injuries are going to take place. Crazy losses are going to take place. Some team's going to show up flat at some point. I mean, and not maybe not one of these 2 teams, but just somewhere that affects it. But it's worth mentioning. Utah was featured in a top 15 nationally game in September last year in Stillwater, Oklahoma. Both teams were in the top 15. Both teams finished either second to last in the league or dead last. Yeah. That's how much things can change. It's also worth mentioning that Arizona State rolled into Lubbock, Texas last year in both teams' first conference game. Arizona State lost, made it to Arlington.
Yep.
You did not. So, yes. Do you want to win it? 1,000%. Do you feel like you want this in your back pocket? Tiebreakers, standings, just confidence-wise, all the above. But it is, you're just going to have to go the long way, as you said. I think one of the analogies I used on something else I was doing the other day was we've all been to Vegas, right? And you've been with friends, and you're like looking down the strip, and you're like, hey, man, let's just walk. It's just right there. And then you end up taking that walk in that 162-degree heat, and you're like, God dang, this was a long way. It was just right there, but you just feel like you're just exhausted. Or you could just get on one of those monorails or a cab and just zip it. I think that if you win this game, you're hopping in the cab, or
monorail, yeah.
Or if not, you're gonna take the long walk in the desert, and you're gonna have people hand you different slips of paper with phone numbers and certain pictures on them and all that stuff. But yeah, that's where we're at.
Those are great points to bring up and remember from last year, as far as the lay of the land when you began conference play and where some of these teams wound up and others.
What's crazy? It's sports. Yeah.
And we got, it's college football we're into. So it's going to include a whole lot more of that. You have talked me down for a period of time, but only the patio will determine what my patio post-game vibes will actually be. Am I running wild, celebratory, or am I ready to tear it down and build it back up?
Yeah.
Who knows? We're going to find out together, as you said, Chris. All right. Appreciate the perspectives and time as always, man. Enjoyed it. One step closer to the biggest game so far, only to be followed by another biggest game so far. That's life as you roll through conference season now, Chris. Looking forward to the next one, man. We'll see you then.
Yeah, keep hope alive, people. Guns up, and we'll talk to everybody next time. Yeah, it's a big week, and it's almost over or getting close to wrapping up. It's almost showtime there in Salt Lake. So, yeah.
Kegs and Eggs, 10 a.m. local time. We're on the downhill slope rolling toward Salt Lake City. Looking forward to a little more time we got to spend with you here this week on Locked On Texas Tech as we get ready for that. So make sure you're subscribed on YouTube or anywhere you get podcasts so you miss nothing. And, of course, we appreciate the everydayers for always riding along, and the Matador Mob. Hit the show notes and find a link to a free 14-day trial if you're interested in joining that outlaw band. It's your direct line to Chris and myself with one-on-one text sent straight to your phone. For Chris, I'm Casey. Thanks as always for the time, and we hope to see you back for the next round on Locked On Texas Tech.